Hi everybody, this is Rada Duvall with eXp Realty, and I'm here interviewing my good friend Luke, who is a co-owner of Scout Wine Merchants. So we're gonna pick his brain a little bit about how he and his wife Emily came about starting a beautiful wine club slash. Why don't you tell us exactly what you're doing here?
Really, we have two unique experiences here. We've got a market, which is kind of coming off of that. I say bodega, like the Brooklyn bodega,
right?
But I say it with a little hesitation because we don't have a deli counter, we don't have a meat slicer, we don't, right? And that's the true like Brooklyn bodega. But the early bodega in the 20s and 30s, was the wine shop, right? So as Italians in Brooklyn started opening places, they were opening wine shops, and then they realized they could add more and more and more to it. And
is that right? I didn't really know that. And
yeah,
you're
so
Italian?
yeah, my grandfather, Grandpa More, and it's all like Brooklyn Italian, right? Which is its own thing.
Right.
But I grew up in Wisconsin, and I spent a good part of my summers in Brooklyn, and that's where this is like my fantasy bodega. I don't think it resembles the bodega of like my childhood at all, but the idea was to have a bustling market and put a bar right in the middle of that.
Yeah.
So the logistics of that was convincing people that we got, multiple licenses. So we're licensed as a liquor store, we're licensed as a restaurant. And jumping in during pandemic, we were able to kind of navigate those waters. So now we have a place with a market, with wine, with beer, with liquor, with cigars, and a bar, and with a whole bunch of like pantry specialty foods. And then we have a bar and a lounge and a tasting room that we're sitting in here, and a patio. So we got to really expand on the idea of that.
The bodega.
Of the bodega.
So that's kind of where the idea started.
Yep, that's where it started in my head.
So one of my questions was going to be, how did your life and experience in New York influence the startup of Scout? And you've sort of answered that in a way.
It did. I'd say
there's a swanky feel here. Like I just love it.
I see this on Smith Street in Brooklyn, right? And you come on.
Well, I'm a Manhattanite, but okay.
I wouldn't blame you for that. It's all right. So Smith and Atlantic, really Smith Street has become, over the years, as I go back, it's like, what the heck is happening here? It is the extension of Manhattan.
Oh yeah, I know. When I was in New York, it was like circa 2004.
We had just left.
Williamsburg was like a ghost town.
I know.
I was like scootering with my friend through Williamsburg, and like we owned it, and there was like one pub, and all of a sudden, a few years later.
So Emily and I almost got a place in Williamsburg, and I showed up at like midnight to check it out, just to see what it was like at night, and it was just not it yet.
Wasn't it yet?
I wasn't quite ready to jump in, and
now we'll come back to Scout, but now people are like, if they're lucky if they could live in like Dumbo, right? Or like whoa.
Right. Dumbo wasn't even a name when I went there. Like I went back one day, I was like, well, what is Dumbo? Oh, down under the Manhattan. Okay,
right.
All right, clever. That was like, you didn't go there unless you wanted drugs, or you were looking for somebody that got dumped in the river. Now it's like high-end realism.
So you're really into being a hipster, yeah.
Yeah, well, St. Anne's Warehouse was down there. That was some of the best shows. Sorry.
So no, that's okay.
I digress.
So we touched on that because I figured they must have. They've lived in New York. I mean, there's got to be some impact here, and there is for sure.
So this is like Carroll Gardens, right? That's where that's where My grandparents lived when I was young. My mom grew up in a different part of Brooklyn, but by the time I came around, my family was mostly in Carroll Gardens. And that's Cheever Place was a 2-block long with a bodega at the end. And it was like a classic bodega, right? And you've got guys out on milk crates playing dominoes, whatever it was. And that bodega, I don't think I could draw it in my head, but that's where this started.
Cool.
The start of it. I want that, and I want a place where if this was on Smith Street, people would be lined up around the block.
Well, I'm impressed. I mean, I've been here before, and I'm here now to do the interview, and I see all sorts of people coming through the door for different reasons. There's the woman who just had a baby and needs a really good glass of wine. And then, the friends having a drink in the cool room back there, which I love. What do you call that one?
That's the lounge, and we just redesigned the lounge.
It's beautiful.
I spent a bunch of time with a great furniture maker. This kid Charlie had built our tasting room, he built our patio, he built our bar and tables.
You have outdoor space, which is key.
It's huge, and the heaters are on right now.
Nice.
And I just decided, so I went to Chicago.
This is the perfect time to come sit under the heaters outside.
It is. I went to Rush Street, which, you know Rush Street well. I went to Rush Street to investigate, what are they doing for heat? Because it's windy.
Yeah.
And we're very windy here. So we dumped in and we invested in
the heaters.
In heat. We invested in good, new, cutting edge, infrared heat.
Cool.
So the longer you sit there, the warmer you get. Cool. And I wanted the shoulder season. Right? I want October, November, those early, nice December days. We've got blankets, come sit, enjoy.
Ooh.
But the lounge now is redesigned to have music.
Yeah.
So we'll start doing some live music this winter.
Cool.
And I really can't wait. Yeah.
We talk a lot about music, so play that group that I told you about.
Yes.
But then I saw your club members. So the wine club, is that what it is?
Yeah, so we've got a wine club. We've got 3 levels of wine club. We have basically your sightseer, we call it. Sightseer is like the intro wine club. They're going to be grapes that you're familiar with, varietals that you're familiar with. But Jake Hansen is our sommelier and is phenomenal. He really is pivotal to our success. He's put amazing things on the shelf, whether it's a $12 wine or come back here and if you want to spend a couple $100, however, whatever you take off the shelf, I have great confidence that it's going to taste good. It might not be your flavor,
right,
but it's good wine. And Jake has done a really sensational job of tasting everything that goes on our shelves.
So I can come here and say, I want to spend this much. I'm going to whatever.
Yeah. We're not party down the street.
Or whatever. And I want a good red wine, and you guys can select it.
Sure, absolutely. And that's the fun part is price and quality don't always run hand in hand.
Right.
So
I think that from the sommelier.
Yeah, what we avoid when you meet with reps, with all of our liquor reps, right?
Yeah.
All of our wine reps, the wines under $10 that you'll see in liquor stores, we just don't go there. Because what changes are, they're mass-produced wines.
Yeah.
And
I don't even go there anymore.
And
maybe in college.
It's just different, right? They're mass-produced wines, and we don't get to taste them.
Yeah.
So once you get into, we've got wines at $10.99 that are from small vineyards and they're from family farms, and they're great.
Yeah.
They just are from Italy, so they're not paying. They've had that land for 2 centuries, so they don't pay rent on it, so they can sell their wine for cheap.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really
Anyways, but our wine club, we've got 3 levels. We've got Sightseer, which introduces you. It's 2 bottles a month. No matter what club you're in, it's 2 bottles a month, and it's common varietals. Then we have Traveler, which is probably our most popular.
Okay, what's that?
And Traveler is kind of it's going to push your borders a little bit. It's going to introduce you to varietals that you maybe haven't heard of or haven't experienced. Nothing funky. Like we stay away from, you've got to try this. It tastes like, pineapple with a baseball mitt. And we're not going for funky, but we want to introduce you to some of it is climate change, right?
Really?
So climate change, So climate change is introducing new regions.
I thought about that. Yeah.
So there's a region in New York, in upstate New York,
that
that is going to be the next region.
Wow.
It's going to be the next region.
That's bizarre.
Then you get into France and in the regions we're all very familiar with. If you go just north of them to higher altitudes, those are the new regions.
Awesome.
And we might not see this as a push through for the next 2 decades, but it's coming. And they're starting to grow amazing fruit. And that's turning into amazing wine. So Traveler Wine Club introduces you to those regions, right?
Yeah.
And then there's the Expedition, which is more of our cellar builder. That's 2 exceptional bottles of wine. When Jake has fun with that. It's more expensive, but these are wines that maybe aren't drinkable today. Maybe these are open in 5 years. But in 5 years, it's going to be a 99.1.
And it's kind of like, hey, we found this new one. Here it is right now.
Buy this now while you can afford it.
Yeah.
Or while it's available, even.
Okay.
Not afford it, but buy this now while it's available.
Yeah. So it's like this great find, and that's what that club membership
And
is
some
all
of them are drinkable today, but they're really special finds. And some of them are like, stick this in your cellar, let it get dusty. In 10 years, you're going to love this one.
That's great.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's a wine club.
So sommeliers are few and far between, right? I mean,
well, there's levels of it, right?
Okay.
And where we put our emphasis is on accessibility. So what Jake has a real gift at is making all of these wines accessible and relatable to me, right? I had an idea to build a wine shop.
Yeah.
And build a bodega and do all this stuff. And my wife Emily she's a private chef, and this was this natural lead in through. We call this our pandemic baby, right?
Well, that was one of my questions. Like, what advice would you have for other businesses in terms of when to get started? Because you got started during the pandemic.
Well,
but go on. So this is your pandemic.
No. I say this, and I look up at the camera for this one. I have a unique appetite for risk. And it's not necessarily shared with my wife, but I have a unique tolerance for sound, thought-through risk. And this was sound, thought-through risk, enough that she came on board and said, yeah, let's do this. And I wasn't going to do this without her full engagement, because I say this, I came up with an idea. This is her place. She runs Scout. Scout is Emily. And I help run the brand, I help run programming, but the day-to-day grind and function and experience that people get at Scout, that's Emily and Jake really doing exceptional work. And Emily is just, I can't say that. She's killing it.
Yeah, her influence is here.
Yeah, her fingerprints are on everything. Yeah. Especially our food. Right?
Everything is so beautiful.
Especially our food and our boards. I call our boards like charcuterie upgraded. Right? It's from our market. Yeah. Everything we feature our market foods, which are all local vendors or really unique foreign vendors, right? Well, so we've got spices from a women's collective in India. We've got different oils from a Native American piece of land outside of Sonoma. We're trying to be very intentional with who we, and then meats and cheeses all from local.
I was going to say, I mean, I think recently there was a diplomat who came over from France, and they were in Milwaukee, and they said there are so many similarities between French culture and that of Wisconsin. Of course. Maybe it's the landscape, I don't know, but the cheeses, the soil, the farming. So that brings us to what you just said, so you source things from, you're picky about it, but we do have so much right here in our community, right? Mm-hmm. And so how has this ripple affected our community?
Well, even our beer, right? Our beers from Gathering Place.
We have three or four breweries
we could literally throw a rock at.
Yeah.
So one of those is Gathering Place,
right.
River West.
We love Gathering.
So Gathering Place, we have 4 taps here. Mm-hmm. Gathering Place is 3 of them.
Oh wow!
And one of them is a house beer, which is just Scout Ale, which is like a French grisette.
Okay.
Like a farm ale. Mm-hmm. And we worked with Gathering Place. We worked with Joe and his group to we got to go in and drink a bunch of beer and say what we liked about each of them.
It's like when you're tasting lemon cakes, beer for Scout.
Exactly. and they came up with a beer that fit my dream beer. Right? And we just told them what we liked, and it came out. So we have Scout Ale.
Cool.
So we're trying to collaborate with local.
Yeah.
Well, with stuff that you're doing, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's really working with a local surge, so it's not just, I do this one thing that's local.
Right.
We can do more.
Yeah, exactly. So, well, everything I think is right here, or we wouldn't like it so much and we wouldn't live here, right? Because we both lived in different places.
A lot of places.
All over the world.
Emily moved to New York from Japan.
There you go.
She was in Japan for 2 years. After New York, we moved to Honduras for a year. We've experienced pieces of the world that's where Scout, the name came from, right?
Oh, good.
We'll go scout the world. We'll go scout. We'll bring the best back here.
Beautiful.
And, I'm in the baseball world.
As a basketball player.
As a basketball player, you see it.
Yeah.
So in sports, you're...
And you can select the best, only the best, right?
Only the best. So you were scouted as a basketball player.
I was.
I live in the baseball world as my other job.
That's right.
And it's the scouts. The scouts go find the best. So one of our jobs is to go explore the best, which... coming up.
I was going to say, do you have a vacation plan?
Oh, no, we've got, listen, this is shooting a little in advance because it's probably 18 months out, but once the world is ready, Scout Travel is queued up and ready.
Awesome.
We would love to cater and curate wine, bourbon, whatever experiences, and really we've got a travel agent ready to go with us, So we really love to explore Scout Travel, and then music. Music's big. We sat and talked about music for an hour before we started rolling the camera, and music will start to be. We'll start to have live music in the lounge so soon, and I work closely with Milwaukee Symphony with different things start to be after party plays, but after party that's open to the public.
All of that,
and I think it gets really special. I want this community. So, Rada, I don't know if I've told you this, but we're going to do one of these.
Okay.
I used to, my first job out of college is I shot a live jazz show. I was in film and television. I was a cameraman. And I shot a live jazz show for BET at the Knitting, so Black Entertainment Television, at the Knitting Factory. On Leonard in Manhattan.
Yeah.
And the Knitting Factory is in Brooklyn now, but then it was in Manhattan. And we shot a live show for BET and had the most amazing artists, just the most amazing artists. And I always say, I want to get Shorewood as close to that as we can. We'll never get there, and I think that's a good thing because people would be sleeping outside on the street after shows because of the debauchery that happened, but the music that happened, I think we have a space for it.
That would be amazing.
We'll see. I'm not talking pipe dreams now, but that's where the things start.
Yeah, you're the ideas guy. As long as Emily can execute it, right?
We're hiring.
You've said a lot. Is there anything that we haven't talked about in regards to, an event or the store that you want to tell everyone that I can blast out there?
Sure. I mean, we're starting to really pump tastings. You know,
okay.
the wine's all over the table here. We did an Italian wine tasting on Tuesday. And then you can order at that event. So you come in, it's like $5 to $10, depending on if there's food or not food. $5 to $10.
That's so affordable for everyone.
Yeah, it's $5 to $10. We really just want the opportunity for people to taste a bunch of wine.
Yeah.
So you taste 4 or 5 different wines, and then you can order them. You don't have to, but you can order them, and often we do really unique, great wines. So, you know, we've got a table full of wine here that people are coming to pick up in the next couple of days because we showcase some great Italian wines. So we work with our reps on that, and that's something fun. I think the shoulder season of the patio is fun, and then coming into the holiday season, we have a bunch of promotions, and we're going to do the fun things. Our anniversary, our 1-year anniversary, is the day prior to Thanksgiving. And so we'll have a big party at Scout that day.
No way.
We'll have a party, we'll have free bubbles, we'll have some food, we'll have...
Well, maybe we'll have to come because it's my husband's birthday on the 30th.
Is it?
Yeah, maybe I'll force him to do wine, you know. He's not a big wine. You know what? You have other stuff.
We've got stuff other than wine. Listen, I'm drinking an old fashioned right now, so it's. I mean,
that's the good thing. Is like there's something for everyone, right?
Yeah.
If you're not necessarily just.
We've got tap beer, we've got non-alcohol options, we've got
great.
plenty of stuff, and cigars. Unfortunately, you can't smoke in house, or fortunate, depending on your take on it. But cigars have really picked up. People have identified us as a place they can get cigars.
Over there. I mean, they can step out on the porch or no?
Ish.
Because I believe smoking
we
laws
share
are
the
like
porch
now.
with a restaurant, so I'm trying to be respectful in that vein. But we're looking at like Monday cigar night out on the patio.
Monday cigar night.
We're coming up with those little ideas that keep evolving. But following us on Instagram is probably the Instagram. I think Facebook, but that's probably the best. I don't even know.
Yes, Facebook and Instagram.
I don't have a Facebook account, so I'm sure. But I think those two are great ways to follow us, and then sign up for our email.
Yeah.
It's really like we don't dilute you with stuff, but we just send out our what's going on this week.
I think you've really touched on so many things. You know, I had a few questions written down. I just want to look to see that I didn't miss anything. Well, I guess this is kind of a question I'm wondering myself.
Yeah.
Of course, this gives you fulfillment, right? It's just growing your multiple businesses. But this one's fun because you're bringing the community together.
It's different, yeah.
But this question is kind of cool, and I ask a lot of the businesses. So what values does the business exemplify, and how does it carry over into like your personal life and professional life?
So I think I talked a lot about the bodega and everything, but the real genesis of why we built this was to host and entertain.
I love it.
It is the coming together. We're all going to get through all this stuff that's going on in the world, and we can come together here. We can put our differences aside. We can find our similarities, and we can just relax. And that is the real. Whenever we talk about like Scout as a brand, that is central, right? Does it create an environment of coming together? And that's. So I would say, as a reflective value of Emily and I, that's us. Like we want to host, entertain, and give an opportunity for coming together.
Yeah, and I think that's you and Emily. I mean, I know you guys. I've known you for a year now or so, and your personalities are that way. You draw people in, you know. So what you created here, and so everything is just like an extension of you guys, and it's working. And I'm really excited to come back. Thank you so much.
I'm excited that we did this.
Me too. Yeah, no, this was really a fun one, and I must say, whatever you served me here, I didn't ask, was absolutely delicious.
So, yeah, cheers.
Cheers to
Cheers.
that.